It's Friday. It's the 6th of May 2022. And today, in the sentencing of a 15-year-old young man who cannot be named for legal reasons, who was found guilty of manslaughter in the case of Dea-John Reid, he was sentenced to 6 years, 6 months in prison. He has already served 11 months in prison, so that will be reduced from his sentence, meaning that he could serve in the region of 28 months, it's anticipated, because the judge had ordered that he serve half the sentence prior to being released on license. Now, today, his mother, Joan Morris, was able to have a statement read out in court, what we call a victim impact statement, for which I was asked to read that on her behalf. We know that it's quite an emotive statement, and parts will not be published in the media because of what many will say taste. However, the full statement is here. I'm going to read out what I read out in court today. Dea-John Reid, my son, my handsome son, is no longer with us. He was not a nigger. He was not a black bastard. He wasn't someone to be banged out. He was my son, a brother, an uncle, and a nephew, a cousin, and a friend. On Monday, 31st May 2021, will be a day in my life that I will never forget. After seeing my son bouncing around with life, and he went out to play football and never returned to me, despite me speaking to him at approximately 7 p.m. on the evening of 31st May 2021, telling me that he would be home in 40 minutes, which never came. The only call I had was from a friend telling me that my son had been hurt in King's Standing and that I should make my way there, which I duly did, only to see in the middle of College Road a blue tent behind a police cordon, for which I was told my son was lying on the ground underneath the tent as he had been stabbed. Being told that I cannot go and see my son or cuddle him, suddenly my youngest baby at the tender age of 14 had gone, and all I was being told is that I cannot even see him. The next time I saw him was in a mortuary in Coventry. It dawned upon me that my son Dea-John Reid, a budding footballer, someone who wanted to be a dentist, had been torn away out of my life, breaking my heart into pieces by the actions of others forever. Dea-John used to be there for me. He would make me a cup of tea, get my medication. We had a fantastic relationship, which was abruptly destroyed by the actions of others. Upon reflection, I will never see Dea-John become a footballer or a dentist that he dreamed of, nor see Dea-John get engaged and married, nor see Dea-John have children, nor his own home, or even just simply to have a conversation with him face to face. The final act of love I could show to my son was to ensure that he had the send-off which he deserved. Whilst members of the perpetrator's family will be able to visit their loved one and eventually see him released back in the community, my only visit to Dea-John is to a grave in a cemetery. My only reunion with Dea-John may well be, if I am still in this country, to join him in his grave when the Lord calls me home. To add insult to injury to all of this, I have had to sit through a trial in this court building where I am told that justice will prevail, and I put my trust in the system, and I do sincerely believe that this system has let me down. I have seen defense tactics which have placed slurs upon my son's memory, and I have really seen it as though it was Dea-John, my son, that were on trial. Many may be of the view that he was up to no good with his friends. However, he did not hurt anyone physically. He was also unarmed, and he had not robbed anyone. In fact, he was making his way home after whatever had happened previously de-escalated. Then suddenly, whilst he was making his way along College Road, I do believe to the bus stop, he was hunted by a lynch mob, reminiscent of a scene from Mississippi Burning, being called a nigger, and as evidence was given, a black bastard and bang him out. Even sitting in the public gallery, comments were made towards me such as, she's turning on the waterworks. Having to listen to evidence giving excuses for deliberate unlawful actions. Answers given such as, I can't remember, taking sips of water and crying. A jury that was not reflective of Birmingham, who bought the stories given by defendants in this case and delivering a verdict against this young man in the dock of merely manslaughter. Manslaughter where he deliberately picked up a kitchen knife, placed it down his tracksuit bottoms, and then once he saw Dea-John chasing him in open public in front of witnesses on a bright evening, wearing a balaclava, a hood over his head, gloves with a knife raised in the air, and when my son had stopped running, stabbing him to death with sufficient force to dislodge blood vessels to his heart. Having to sit through a trial watching the last moment of my son's life on CCTV footage. The terror he must have felt prior to being deliberately knifed to death. Then, to add insult to injury, this verdict of manslaughter, whilst the others are still found not guilty, just goes to prove to me that the life of Dea-John Reid, my son, a young black man, didn't matter. This only highlights the ongoing question, do black lives really matter? As far as I'm concerned, many will say that this young man has been held accountable for killing my son. However, I do wonder if the roles were reversed, what the verdict may well have been. In this case, it just tells me that being a perpetrator is the safest bet, as one day this young man will rejoin his family and be able to get on with the rest of his life, whilst Dea-John is no longer with us, and my heart has been left broken forever. And to exacerbate all of this, I do believe that a system that I decided to trust has completely let me, my family, my community, including the friends of Dea-John Reid, down. That's the statement of Joan Morris, Dea-John Reid's mom, that was read out in court today, where the young man responsible for his death following a conviction for manslaughter was sentenced to 6 years, 6 months. The judge has issued a written statement, which I'll do my reflection on over the weekend, and we'll make some comments on that. I invite you to join our page, Justice for Dea-John Reid, because as a result of this trial, we've got more questions than answers. Questions regarding the ethnic makeup of juries, and also as well, where do we go when there are serious civil rights abuses, as that which has happened in this case?